Hello everyone, welcome back. We are now creating the API using the Anypoint Studio. If we go to the API development lifecycle, till now we have done with this designing the API in the Anypoint platform. We have simulated it, and after the feedback and validation, we have did the validation. We have imported the API from the exchange, and we have built the API using the Anypoint Studio, and after that we have tested the API and it was successful. The next step was to secure and deploy the API. But before going over the secure and deploy, I want to explain you more example on building so that you are more confident enough to build the Mule application. So in the upcoming few classes is going to be on the building of Mule applications. Once we are more confident on the building of Mule application, then I am going to be move forward on the designing and deploying. These are the not a big step, these are the very short step. But before this is the main step, the building of API in Anypoint Studio, because if you have the more grip over that, over this area, then you will be enough, you will be okay on these areas. Okay, so this will be more series will be on this area. So in this lecture I am going to be introduce few of the thing. Let me first, before that, let me first create a message flow. Let's go to the Anypoint Studio. This is the example that we have used earlier. Okay, but for now I am going to create a from the scratch everything. Okay, if you want to build a application with the help of Anypoint Studio, first step is to create a project. For that you have to click on file, new, and the Mule project. This will, here you have to give the Mule application that you want to create, name the Mule application. Let's create, let me write the test Mule app. Okay, I'm just writing a test application. Make sure the latest version of the Mule is selected here, that it will be automatically came. And here we are not importing game, I am creating from scratch, just so just click on the finish. It will create a interface for you. So it is sometime it is not responding, so don't need to be panic. Okay, just wait and let it to be finished. Okay, let me cross this thing. Okay, okay, now it is come, it is done. After click on finish, it will open like that. Okay, here these are the area where we are going to, we have some server is running, or embedded Mule already provide the embedded MuleSoft server, so you don't need to create a server from especially for to deploy the Mule application. It provided the embedded server. This is the area where we are, let me explain the each of the thing. This is the my application name, that is the test Mule app name. Under that we have the file name is the src main Mule. This is the main folder where we are going to, where our message flow is going to be there. This is the folder where we can keep some java file. This is the src main and resource. This is the place where we can keep some resource. If I want to keep some file, then we can keep here as a resource, and we can further refer to the main message flow. Okay, this is again similar to the this main flow. There is some test flow, you can see java resource and the M unit. Okay, Similarly, after that, there are some servers, these all Mule servers. So this thing are there. So we don't need to much worry about that. Okay. So this is the area, the package explorer area. Okay. This is the area where we are going to design the message flow. Okay. This area consists of three tab. First tab is the message flow, where our design is going to be happen here. Second area is called the global element, where we can create the configuration like the database configuration or HTTP configuration, any configuration you want to create here, and you can refer to the message flow. Okay. And this is the configuration XML. This is nothing. When you create the message flow, automatically everything is going to be written in the XML format. You can edit the XML to edit the message flow. Okay. Next, go to this area. This area is called the platelet area, where everything like that, the whatever the connector we are going to use, is this all connector is present here. And if in case some connector is not present, then you can add it from the you can also add this from the Anypoint platform from the exchange. Okay. 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 Now let's explain the other area. This is the area where for any connector we are going to see the properties. What is the properties of any connector we are going to see here. This is the area where we are going to see the logs. We are going to what is happening with the every connector, what is happening with the message flow, everything log we are going to see here. In case some issue happen, we are going to see this issue here. Okay. Now let's go to the Mule debugger. In debug mode, we are going to see some thing here. Okay. This is all part defined. Now let's try to explain the things. We are going to cover few of the nodes in this lecture. We are going to cover logger, we are going to cover set variable, we are going to cover set payload, we are going to call listener, we are going to see debugger, and we are going to see response. This all thing we are going to cover in this lecture. Okay. So let's first go through the listener, because listener is the important. Okay. If you see here listener, agar if you are not seeing listener, you can write, just search here listener, you will get the listener. You can see under the HTTP you will get the listener. Just drag and drop here. Okay. You can see this listener is comprises of two part. First part is before dotted, and second part is called after dotted. Okay. So this is consist of two part, first before dot and after dot. There is a region behind this dot. Before that, let me explain you what listener does. Listener, if I say in single word, it is like the listener is HTTP input node. It is used to take request from the client. If any client or any testing tool, if I am sending a request from the web to a web service, this listener will take the request and process it for further. So we use listener to take request from the client and process for the further processing. So this is divided into part. First part, this part before dot is called the event source, and the second part is called the event processor. If someone is saying that mule event or source or simple event source, to consider this area before dot, the listener area is called the event source, and the after dot, this area is called mule event processor. Why this is called event source? Means it is the source of the message, like that first message will interact with this area, so it is called the event source. And event processor means this is the area used for the processing, further making transformation, any implementation. This all is used for the process. If you want to further process it, then we use this area. And below this you can see the error handling. Currently we are not using any error handling, but here we have area for error handling. And this is the area which this is the we use for the response. Okay, after we get from the flow. Okay, now let's try to configure the listener. Okay, in listener, if you see the listener is consist of display name. You can see here, this is similar to this one. Okay, here we can configure the what web service we want to call. We can configure here. Okay, here we can just, if you click on plus, here we can give the port host name. This is similar to the local host. Port name, which port you want to call, and what should be your base path. Base path means let me make a URL. Let's consider this URL http dot slash slash local host and let me copy from the postman itself. Okay, I have this URL. Okay, okay, there is a port. Okay, port call 8081 slash, let's take the test v1. Okay, message. Okay, to consider this as a URL, and this we are going to hit for taking the message from the source. Okay, or getting the message from the source. Whatever the method you want to call, you can take. So we can, let's take example, we can keep here the base path. Let's take the base path is test only. So we are keeping test here, and we can test the connection. After few minutes, you can see you will see the connection will be successful, because it takes some time. It takes time, so don't need to worry about that. Okay, you can see the test is successful. Just click on OK. Now you can see we have successfully configured the listener configuration. If you can click on edit, and you can see the same. But till here we have did that. Till here, this is the base URI. Till here we have written the in the listener configuration itself. After that, you can see once we configure the listener configuration, it automatically came into a global element, and also it will automatically added into a this configuration XML. You can see from here, from listener to end listener. If you see here, from here it is starting. Okay, you can see 8081 port we have written, and these all thing we can see here. So once you configure anything in message flow, it will automatically write in the X, and from here we can also change it. If you want to change the port, you can just from 8182 you can change 8182, it will change automatically it. Okay, now let's give the base path. If a path, in the path, let's give this as a path slash v1 slash message. So let me copy this. Okay, let me copy from here. Now I have given the base path. So now it is done. We have, this is the listener name, anything you can write here, and this is the configuration mass that we are going to use, and this is the path that we are going to call. You can see also we can call this also as a resource. Okay, now if you go to the further section, this further section is divided into, if you go to advanced, in advance you have to give mention here the which method you want to call, in which method you want to call this flow. So let me take this get I want to get some information, so I am calling the get method. Okay, so for here we have to mention the get method and post method, put method or update method, which method you want to call. Get each call to get the information, and the put each call to update, and post each call to create a new update, and the delete is used to delete the information. Okay, now further, if you go to the response section, this response, let me make it bigger. If you go to response section, further this is divided into two parts. First part is called response, and second part is called error response. So this is for the in case of success. You know in the web service how basically work. Let me explain you here also. A server, there is a client and there is a server. Okay, and client basically request a information from the server, and server response, server response with the response, server give the information with response. The similar thing we are doing here, we are creating a server, with the help of postman. Consider this as a client, postman as a client. We are requesting information from the this server, and in response we will get a response here in the postman. So here we are requesting information, and here we will get a response. The same thing, and who is providing the response? So this flow is providing the response. So this response is mentioned here. What should be in the body? In body it should be a payload by default game. In error it should be a error dot description that we are taking from the metadata. In header, what you want to set in the response you can mention here. In case of error is happening or in case of successful happening, what you want to mention you can here. And status code and the region phrase you can mention for the successful scenario and for the failure scenario. But if you are not setting these values, by default it will take as 200 for the successful, and I think 500 for the failure scenario. Okay, these are the three section that we have to take care of that. And this till now, if you see, I have discussed about the listener, I have discussed the response. These two section I have discussed it. Okay, now let's move forward. Let's try to explore the more node. Let's use the set variable. Okay, let me copy here and let me delete this somehow. Okay, set variable is used to set something inside a variable. Let's take example. If I want to create some variable, then we can create variable using the set variable. Set variable is used to set a variable inside a message flow. But why? What is the benefit of this set variable? Let's take example. There is a message flow consists of a database node, select operation, or any database node. Okay, once a database node call, what will happen? Whatever the thing present in the payload, it basically got deleted or erased. Then in but further we need in the message flow also we need payload that coming from the listener. Then in that case, what we can do, we can store the payload inside the variable. We can store the payload inside the variable, and this payload we can further use in the upcoming next connector. In the variable we can store the payload, we can store any value that we wish. Okay, for now I want to piece any random let's me write my name and my name as Rishu. Just keep it simple. Okay, I want to store my name and my name as a Rishu. I want to store in the variable. Okay, now this is the node only benefit we have. If you want to set any value with any name. This is here, this is the variable name that you have, what is the variable name, and this is the name value of the variable, what should be the value present for that variable. It is simple like that. If you have learned like that, x is equal to 5. Okay, here x is the variable and the value against it is the value of variable. Similar thing is there like that. Here name is the x and the issue is the 5. Okay, now let's go to the next node. We have seen the set variable. Now move the set payload. What is the set payload? You can see here is a set payload. Let's move forward. Set payload is used to set some value inside the payload. You know, some value is coming from the source. We are something sending from the, okay, in the request in the payload. If you want to set something inside the payload, you can use the set payload. Okay, let's take example. Here I want to set something something a different thing in the payload. Let's take example. I want to set something, my location. Okay, okay, just simple like that. Okay, I want to set some my state and my country name here in the payload. So that's a simple, I can write here and it will populate automatically inside the payload when we call this web service. Okay, now so this is the simple. If you want to set something inside the variable, you can use the set variable. If you want to set something inside the payload, you can use the set payload. Okay, now let's move to the logger. What is the use of logger? Logger is the one of the most important thing. Let me use the logger. Let me use first logger before here and let me use logger after also here. Okay, logger is like that. Logger we use logger to print something on the console. If you want to print something on the console during the message flow execute running, then we use a logger. Let's take example from here flow happen. If you want to see what is happening this node, then we can write something, some expression, and we can see what value returned from that expression in the logger. Okay, let's example from here. I want to write simple thing. I don't want to write in high level. Let's write here my flow has started, and let's here write here as a my flow has ended. My flow has okay. So once logger will run, once the break it will came here, it will print on the console my flow has started, and once it will came here, it will print my flow has successfully ended. So whatever here we are using, that will print. Okay, so we have covered this also. Logger we have covered set variable, set payload, listener, response we have covered, and the debugger that we are going to see in the few minutes. Okay, now if you see, once we are connecting these connectors, a line will be moving from here to here. After the last connector, there is a line basically joins the first listener, and whatever the response, whatever the thing came here in the payload, it will come as a response to this listener. Why payload? Because we have set in response as a payload. We have, if you want to different thing in response, so then you have to change here. Okay, so whatever you have set it here in the body, you will get as a response in case of successful, and whatever you set it here in the this body you will get as a response in case of some error happen. Again, for the header, if you have set, you will get as a header. Okay, so this is the whole flow for this my lecture. Let me again quickly brief. The listener we use to get request from the client, and this is comprises of two parts. First part is called event source, and these all are called as a event processor because these all are used to process the request. If we talk about the logger is simple thing which is used to print the value over the console. We use set variable to set value over the set some value for the variable. We use set payload to set something value inside the payload, and we use the logger against for the print to something value inside the over the console. Let's now try to debug the application. Okay, before that, if you want to apply a breakpoint to see what is happening, to apply a breakpoint, just click here and just click on add a breakpoint. Further, if I want to apply a breakpoint to here, just click here and add a breakpoint. Now, one point keep in mind. Let's take example. Currently, I have applied a breakpoint here. Let's remove this first, and I want to explain one thing to you. I have applied a breakpoint to here. Okay, and I have hitted the request to the listener. Our till here my flow will be executed and it will stop. This node is not going to be execute. So the point where we have added the breakpoint, before one connector the flow will be executed and stopped, and after that you have to use the resume or some other option to move forward that I am going to show you. Okay, so let me add here the breakpoint again. Now I have added a breakpoint. If you want to again start the deploy, if you want to deploy this application, we have two options. First, run project and the project name, and the debug project and project name. So if you want to simple deploy the application and directly you want to test it, then you have to click on the run mule project. But if you want to debug the application, you have to click on debug. Here I want to debug the application, so I will click on debug. You can see my application is started deploying, and it will take some time to deploy. So let's wait for the few seconds to get it deployed, and after that we are going to again, in between, let me prepare the here the that I am going to use in the Postman. So let me go to Postman and let me create a new request, and let me give here the URL. This is the URL I am going to use, and after that I am going to use a get method. Let me set something inside the query parameter. Let me set something inside the header. Just let's try to send it. Okay, the in query parameter, let me send something as a like that. EMPID 1 2 3 4 5, and okay, let's keep only them, and in header let me set like that my header. Just I'm trying to show you. Okay, and let me okay something. Okay, header thing we need to especially give only that thing that is valid. We cannot give anything. Okay, in header. So let me write. Okay, let leave this for now. Okay, in body I don't want to give anything because this is a something. Now let's see if it has been deployed or not. Okay, it is deployed and it is asking for the change to the debug perspective. Okay, if you see here, you can see this is my application name and this is domain type default and it is status deployed. If it has deployed successfully, it will show as deployed. If in case of failed, it will show as a failed. Okay, let's try to hit my application. To hit it, just click on send. I just sent it and you can see it has came to be this point, because here I have applied the breakpoint, so it has came to here. And if you see all value will be stated here. Let me explain everything here. Okay, you can see in logger it is printing as my flow has started, because it directly came to here. And in logger it is there, but if you see here, let me go, you can see okay, but you can see till now this logger has not, logger value it is showing here, but logger what is set here, stated here, my flow has started, that till now it has not printed in console. You can see you are not seeing any, that my nothing is showing. Okay, my flow has started. Once I will move forward next processor, then it will print here as a my flow has started. Okay, but before that I want to show something to you. This is the debug perspective, and if you see here, there is some attribute is there. In attribute we have the header and we have the listener path. You can see this is the listener path. We have the query parameter. You can see I have sent the query parameter, that emp id, and this is the value that I have set it. So you can see these are the query parameter, that is the emp id. You can see key value is emp id and the value is 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, again we have the correlation id. This is the payload. Under payload we are not sending anything, and this is the variable, and in variable we are also not sending anything. Okay, so this is all about the, this is divided into two parts: attribute, payload, and the query parameters and the variables. Okay, let me move forward. Now you can see it has moved forward, and if you go to the, now if you go to the, let me make it okay, let me try to minimize this. Okay, if you go to the console, now you are going to see the message. You can see my flow has started. This is similar to what I have written into the logger. If you go to the logger, in the logger my flow has started, this message is printed in the console. So logger is used to print the message into the console. Okay, now here once we are going to move forward, here we are setting some variable name is name and the value is resu. But if you see here, currently in the variable size is 0, no value has been setted. But once we move forward, there will be variable going to create with the name and the value is resu. So let's move forward. You can see I have moved forward, and if you go to here, you can see now currently size is showing 1. Under the variable, the one value with the name resu has been setted, and the value is with the name and the value is resu. Okay, and now you can see one variable has been created. Okay, now let's go to the set payload. If you say currently in payload no value has been setted, it is blank. You can see it is blank, nothing is setted. But once we execute this flow, okay, in the payload we are going to set a value called the Bihar comma India. So currently in the payload no value is there, but once we execute this flow, this value is going to set in the payload. So let's move forward. Now let's go to the see what is inside the payload. If you go to payload, you can see the value Bihar and India that is set inside the payload, and we are going to see the same thing. You can see payload is equal to Bihar India. Okay. Now let's move to again last logger. The last logger has a value called the message has ended successfully, and if I move forward, it is going to be give it the let's me. But before that, I want to explain one thing. I already explained you this flow. After this, after calling this flow, this is going to be give the response to listener, and in listener it is going to give a response for the success scenario. What is then payload? Currently, what is in payload? If you see, currently in payload it is Bihar and India. So here we are going to get a response as a Bihar and India. Okay, because what is in payload, we are going to get a response, and that is set inside the listener properties. If you see the listener properties, for the successful we are getting the payload, and for the failure we are getting some error dot details. Okay, so let me move forward. Now if you go to the console, you are going to see that my flow has been ended successfully, and it is same as the what I have written in the here my flow is ended successfully. Okay, now let's go to the here. You can see Bihar and India that I have get in the response, because this same was set inside the response of the sorry, in the payload. Okay, and in the response we have set the in the listener response we have set the payload for the successful scenario. Okay, now you have seen one in the debugger mode. Let me again hit the map flow, sent it. You have in seen debugger mode, these are the thing, few thing is coming like that. Logger, that is different thing, attribute, payload, and variables, vars. So what is this thing? Let me explain you. Okay, a mule a mule message consists of a mule event. What is mule event? Anything data coming from the client is called mule event. Anything data sending client sending is called mule event. This consists of a mule message and the variable. Inside the mule message we have the attribute and the payload. Attribute is nothing, it is the either a query parameter or a URI parameter or a some header value, and the payload is the main message that is going to be we are going to process. Okay, if I explain you the thing that move forward, you can see this diagram. This diagram explain you, if you want to access some value from the attribute and if you access some value from the payload, then how can you access it. Okay, let's take example, I have the payload and I want to access some value from the payload, then how I can access it, that thing I am going to explain in this diagram. Let's say example, if you want to access something from the server, then we have a data wave expression. One point you need to data wave expression, if I am saying, don't be strange, because data wave expression is a language that we are going to use in the mule for writing the syntax, writing the some command. Okay, and the data wave expression that supported, if you want to write data wave expression, we use hatch, and under the this bracket we used to write the command. So everything we are going to write inside the hatch and the this. Okay, now let's, if you want to access something from the server, then we have the server.os name, whatever you want to access you can access. So you have to use, already you know that if you want to access something inside the thing, we use dot is used to go inside. If you want to go inside from anyone, then you have to use dot. Okay, so if you access something from the server, then you have to server and go inside, and whatever the value you want to fetch, you have to fetch it. Okay, if you want to check the mule version, so go dot and the version, it will give you the mule version. Okay, if you want to check something inside the app and the which field you want to fetch, it will give you the application name. If you want to check the flow name, then you have to flow and the name of the flow, it will give you the flow detail. Okay, now these are the some not mandatory thing. It is will be in the ideal scenario in the production that maybe it will be used, but these are the main important thing that you need to focus on for the development point of view. Okay, if you want to access something from the message, okay, then we have the send called the message dot payload. Okay, what is message? This whole, it comprises of attribute and the payload is called the message. Attribute and payload, it consists of message. If you want to access something from the message, you can message dot and whatever what you want to access, like that. Let's example, if you want to let's example, this mule message is called message. Inside that we have the attribute and we have the payload. So if I want to access the attribute, I am going to write the mule message dot attribute, and what value I want to I want to access. Let's say I want to access some value that is my name. So I am going to write the mule message dot attribute dot my name. Okay, again if I want to some get from the value from the payload, again I am going to write the message dot payload, and which field you want to write, that field one value you have to write, that you can get the value from the payload. Okay, but again this is something if you want to directly access from the message, but we can have the syntax to directly go access from the attribute. If you want to access query parameter, then you have the syntax called the attribute. Directly you can write attribute dot query parameters, and which parameter name that I want to access, that you can write. If you want to access some URI parameter, for that you have to write attribute dot URI parameter dot the field name which you want to access. Again, if you want to access some header value, then you have the syntax called attribute dot header dot which field we want to access, that you can write here. Okay, if you want to access some value from the payload, you can directly access value from the payload. For that we have the syntax called payload dot and the field name which you want to access, that you have to write here. Okay, again similarly, if you want to access something from the variable, so we have the syntax called vars and the variable field name which you want to access, you can write here. Okay, now let's move forward and let me try to show you in the debug point of view. Okay, now currently we are in the debug point of view. Okay, and let me move forward. Okay, I have sent the it will be response came like that. Okay, let me send it again, and let me try to go. Okay, now here you can see we have the currently attribute is there, we have currently payload is there, and we have currently variable is there. And let's try to examine this thing, how we can access the thing in the real time. Okay, let's first I want to access some value from the I want to access payload using the message. Then how can, let's write the expression here, and you can use this data wave expression. This is actually try to in real time, if you want to get the value, you can use this. Okay, so let me try to write as a message and dot and the payload. Okay, and just click on evaluate. Okay, you can see what is present inside the payload, you can directly get it. Okay, currently in the payload it is Bihar thought India, and that is I am getting. Okay, and same thing I have written here. If you write the message dot payload, what is present inside the payload, it will get, and you can see I am getting the same thing. Let me again open this and let me try to ping this 1 minute. Okay, now it is going to not going to. Okay, but again if I want to take something from the attribute, the same thing I am going to write here attribute, and if you can see, if I click on all the attribute value, you can see everything came here. If especially I want to take one value like that, consider like that, let me go inside the attribute, and attribute, let's take example, I want to see method. What method I am calling? I can write here as an me. Okay, it will give me the which method I am calling. You can see it is giving the get method. So we have the syntax to directly call the message value also. If we can write the message dot attribute to fetch the attribute, message dot payload to fetch the payload, and under that we can use the dot to fetch the field value inside the attribute and the payload. Let's take example. We can remove the message field and we can directly access the attribute using the attribute and the field name which you want to access. If I click on the attribute and the method, you can see it will give the value. But here I am going to discuss not about this value. Okay, I am going to discuss something different. Let's take example. If I want to because these are the three main field that you have to if you are talking about attribute, we have the main field as the header, query parameter, and the URI parameter. Okay, so if you want to fetch some value from the currently you can see the query parameter is there, and if I want to see what I am sending in the query parameter, you can see in the query parameter I am sending emp id and I am sending 1 2 3 4 5. If I want to fetch this from here, then I can write as a attribute dot same thing like that query. Okay, and if I click on evaluate, you can see okay I have written the wrong. Let me correct it. Now let me, you can see it came as a size 1, and you can see under that emp id is coming like that. So if you click on attribute on query parameter, and if I click on, let's take example, I know the attribute I am sending as the emp id. So let me type the emp id, it will give you the value of the emp id. You can see okay, let me, I have written the wrong name. Let me take the copy from here. Okay, E is capital emp id. Okay, let me write again. Okay, I am writing correct. Let me see what is coming. Let me click on here and let me, it is emp id. Okay, I'm writing the correct. Okay, let's click on upload. Okay, not sure why it is coming as a, but if you want to fetch something from the query parameter, you can write like that. Okay, field value as a, okay, but this is the syntax, not sure why it is coming wrong. But if you want to fetch the value of emp id, just you have to write the emp id dot emp id and it will give you the value. Okay, not sure why it is coming wrong. Let me try to do this thing. Okay, let's see what is coming. Okay, let's click on evaluate. Okay, it is coming. Now let's try to add dot. Okay, I will see this later. Okay, but this is the syntax that you have to remember. Okay, dot value will, if you give, it will give you the value of the emp and what is the value inside the query parameter, it will give you. Okay, now let's move forward and let's see if how to fetch the header value. Okay, if you want to fetch the header value, let's go to the header. This is the header. The attribute dot header you have to write, because I want to fetch the header value. You can see attribute, under attribute we have the header, the attribute dot header, and just click on, just you can see, click on evaluate. You can see okay, somehow headers, it is not a header, it is headers. Just click on evaluate. You can see everything what is present inside the header, everything you can get here. Let me try to fetch a particular value. Let me try to okay, let's use the key as a host. Let's see what coming in the host. Just click on evaluate. Okay, you can see if I am trying to fetch the what is the value of the host, the So I am using attribute, under attribute the headers, under headers we are using the host, and it is printing the value of the host, localhost and 8081. In this way we can fetch the value for the header. Similarly, if you want to fetch the value of URI parameters, similarly you have to write the URI params, and it is a P, and okay, let me try to write here. Okay, and let me remove this. It will give the URI value, but currently there is no URI parameter, so it is size is coming 0. You can see there are only URI params. If it will be value, again you can dot, and what is the value inside that you can try to get it. Okay, so we have seen how we can fetch the message attribute and payload. We can see how we can fetch the query parameters and the header and the URI parameters. Now let's see how we can fetch the payload, and after that we are going to see the variable. If you want to see how we can fetch the payload, for that we have the expression like that. We are going to directly write the only payload. If you write the payload and click on evaluate, you can see value is coming at the Bihar and the India. Okay, but if you want to fetch a particular field from the, then you have to use the dot and the field name. But currently I have only one field. If it will be a long more field, then I am going to use the field name, and that will give the value of a particular field inside the payload. But currently I don't have much value inside the payload, so I cannot use the field name. Okay, now let's come to the how we can fetch the value inside the variable. If you see, I have the variable, one variable whose variable name is name. If I want to fetch the value inside the variable, then how we can fetch? Let's first write only vars. Okay, let me, okay, what is happening here? Let's only write only, okay, vars. Okay, vars is the syntax. Vars is the that we can select syntax. Under that we variable basically stores. If I click on vars, you can see all the value present inside the vars, it will come here. If you will get all the thing that is present inside. You can, the size is 1. Under that we have the variable name, list name, and there is some value that present inside it, inside the variable, that we will get here. Okay, value is issue. But if I want to especially fetch the variable value for the, let's example, currently there is 100 variable, but I want to fetch particularly variable value whose name is name, value of the variable who is name. I want to fetch a detail of name variables. What is the value for the name variable? So we can use the variable vars and the variable dot variable name. It will give you the value for the variable name. You can see I am getting the value for the variable name. So in this way we have seen the how we can fetch the value from the message, payload and attribute. How we can fetch the value from the attribute under the query parameter, URI parameter and headers. How we can fetch the value from the payload, and how we can fetch the value from the variables. This thing is we are going to use very like that many times. Okay, so you need to keep this in mind, how we can fetch the value from the message, attribute and the variables. So now let me execute the flow, but before that let me show you the more thing. Okay, now it is done. Okay, if you see here, there are a few some syntax like that there. If you, let me explain one thing to you. Okay, here this is already explained you. This is for the check the data by expression. This is used to move the max forward, and if you use this will directly move to the next flow. Let me explain you again. If I click on send, you can see the flow has came here, and if I click on next, of course it will go here, but I don't want to go these nodes. I directly want to move to this node, this one breakpoint to other breakpoint. To move from one breakpoint to other breakpoint, we can directly use the resume. If I click on resume, it will directly came to here. To move from one breakpoint to other breakpoint, we can use the resume. Okay, That is all about the this lecture. In this lecture we have seen these all 5 things, and hope you have enjoyed: logger, set variable, set payload, listener, debugger, and response. Okay, in next lecture again I am going to see for a few more connectors in detail. Okay, so thanks for watching the video. Again, if you have any doubt, any comment, you can send me a mail, and if you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe it. Thank you all.